Hi everybody, I have the amazing Rhonda Noordyk. Am I saying that correct?
Are.
Okay, thank you. I think I chopped it up in the past. I've known Rhonda a couple years now. Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning. She is the CEO and founder of the, how do we say it, the Women's Financial Wellness Center.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Now, I know a good amount of what you do, but if you could tell me, first of all, how did you get into what you're doing?
Yeah.
And tell people, that your little bit of background, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so I was in the financial industry. I started in the early 2000s and found women that were coming through my doors that were overwhelmed and frustrated, and a good amount of them were going through divorce. And they really felt like people weren't, they'd never been down divorce before. They didn't know where to start. They didn't know what they didn't know. And I found myself wanting to really help them. And then in probably 2010, I had a good friend who lost her husband. She was widowed in her early 40s.
Yeah.
And we also had this large group of people that were going through divorce, and we did a focus group on a Saturday morning, and I don't even know how many Kleenex we went through. But I left there and I was like, I am going to find a way to help these women navigate through this process, whether it's death or divorce. So the wheels started turning and I started planning, and then in 2014, I left the financial industry to open up the Women's Financial Wellness Center to create a safe place where women could come and I could help them navigate through, from a holistic perspective, those really big life challenges.
That's awesome. That's a really good story. Yeah.
Thank you.
I love the word safe.
Yeah.
It's probably very important.
It is.
With that process, with people are going through. Yeah.
It is.
Tell me a little about your services. And as little as much as possible, because I think you do quite a bit when it comes to the services. It's not just one thing that you do.
Yeah.
So please tell people what you do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, the main thing is the one-on-one coaching. And I always say I roll up my sleeves and get involved wherever I come in the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I'm in the beginning, right, we're going to help prepare and navigate through that. If I come in the middle, okay, we're going to try to make sense of that and then pick up the pieces and move forward from there. And if I'm coming in toward the end, well, we're going to make sure that the women finish strong.
Interesting.
So I'm basically the advocate, the person who's walking alongside, connecting them with the right people, helping them ask the right questions, helping them find their voice, helping them negotiate, like all of those pieces. Also, at the same time, taking a look at the financial aspect. So the one-on-one coaching is probably our premier service, and people can dial in the level of support that they want or need. Yeah. We also offer retreats, so we do those 4 times a year.
Okay.
That's a great place for women to come, and I bring in guest speakers, and it's a nice time for them to just set aside all of the stuff that's going on and just spend some time for themselves.
Sure.
While kind of getting the skills, the tools, the insight they need to navigate through the divorce process. And then we do have some online courses that people can do. We've got one that's called Courageous Contemplation.
Okay.
That's really for the women that haven't officially decided, like, hey, I'm going down the divorce path, but I think I might be. And so I want to make sure that I'm prepared. So I developed a course to help them navigate through. And my theory on that is, hey, if you go through it and you don't end up filing, okay, well, you're going to have some really great skills and knowledge, whether you stay or whether you go.
Right. Do you have a preference or your best advice is when people should reach out to you? Like, is it best in the beginning, or they should do their education first and reach out to you halfway through?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. Josh, I think the sooner that I can get involved, the better. If they are contemplating, that's a really great time for me to get involved, because I've got access to great attorneys that I've vetted out, that I work with, that I know how they bill, I know how they operate, I know their processes and their systems, and they value the expertise that I bring to the table. Yeah. So I can help them with that interview process, and my theory on that is I'm going to put you in front of 2 really great attorneys that you pick one, doesn't matter, it's a win either way.
Sure.
It's just a matter of their preference. So I've done a lot of the legwork for them. For pretty much anybody or anything they would need through the divorce process, I have somebody or have a tool or resource that can help them. Yeah. The challenge is the divorce process can get expensive really quickly. Sure. And so I'll give you an example. There was a lady who reached out in April of this year, and said, Rhonda, I'm going through divorce, I'm super frustrated. But she decided that she, wasn't going to enlist my services, and so she continued down the path with her attorney, and which was fine. And I said, hey, if anything changes, I'm here. And in the end of the summer, probably around August, she reached out and said, Rhonda, I need help. My attorney's withdrawn from the case because there were some things that had happened on the other side, and I'm $11,000 into this with nothing to show for it.
Wow.
And that pains me because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I was involved in April, this wouldn't be that way. Because we would have streamlined the process, helped her ask the right questions, helped her negotiate, helped her to communicate assertively with the attorneys. So, yeah, so that's kind of frustrating. So I know, it's kind of like as a parent, right, where you're like, I know the pain and the frustration, the time, the energy, and even the money that's going to be spent going down this path. How much do I scare the crud out of you?
Well, I can imagine the mindset, because I deal with a lot of clients that are going through divorce now with the mortgage side of things. So there's a lot of emotion, and the two biggest ones is like fear and anger, right? And to your point, they're scared, they're lost, maybe is another good word. I think about, and correct me if I'm wrong, I love the things that you're doing, the podcast and then the education tools that are online. Yeah. I've noticed from what we measure and what we help people with, there's a lot of DIY out there, right? Now DIY only goes so far, but they want to start off doing it themselves as much as they can. They want to study the process. They want to study Rhonda. They want to, they want to build that trust and get as much as they can until they hit to the point where I need to sit down with Rhonda, right, and figure out the next steps and cater to my specific situation. So I love those pieces that are out there versus, hey, you got to see me. You know what I mean? I've noticed that shift, and that's really cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to your point, I mean, there is a DIY aspect of it, like, hey, get some information. But I also think there's an aspect where there's so much noise that, like, how do you the aunt, the friend, the colleague that always wants to chime in again.
Right, it's true. You get a handful of advisors when you're going through that.
So you've got that piece in one ear, you've got all the online stuff on the other, and it's like, okay, who do we really listen to? And so I think there's an aspect of really creating those boundaries around, I've got to get my core team of people, and I think the core team should be a family law attorney, a financial expert, and a therapist. Okay. That's the core. Minimum, and then you can dial in the level of support that you want from each of those people. Then you've got the support folks, which would be the mortgage, the real estate, the CPAs, because they're not necessarily involved in every step of the way. They play a very important role.
Sure.
But I think once you have that core team of people, those are the people that you end up really needing to listen to. Yeah. And you can graciously listen to everybody else, but otherwise you end up with so many options that it ends up actually creating more confusion than clarity.
I agree. Me personally, I always talk about paralysis by overanalysis. When I get too many options, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. And I don't make decisions easily. Yep. I don't take action fast. Yep. You know what I mean? It's so you're just stuck.
I know.
And then the layers of emotions of, when women are going through this, or just people in general. So yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting. And there was a gal recently who posted on Facebook like, hey, I'm thinking about going through divorce, and any suggestions on family law attorneys? And of course, I'm just looking through. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, absolutely not.
Oh, right. Maybe. So the good and bad ones.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so the interesting thing was, after 30 plus messages on there, I messaged her and said, listen, let's grab coffee, because, and to her point, she said, you know what, I kind of wish I wouldn't have put that out there because I got so many options, I didn't know where to start. I thought that's exactly the challenge, So I do offer a free 30-minute conversation. People can go to the website, womensfinancialwellnesscenter.com, and schedule a time to chat with me.
That's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Because sometimes it's like, hey, you just need to talk to a live person.
Yes.
That can give you some guidance and direction, and I can do that. And if they decide to work with me, that's great. There's usually one or two things I can give them in our conversation that will help them. I can certainly direct them to the podcast or specific episodes that might be helpful for them. Yeah. So our Divorce Conversations for Women podcast has been, like you said, a great way for women to, under the radar, gather the support, the insight they need. So by the time they do reach out, they do have a good sense of who I am, what I'm about, what my organization is about.
Yeah.
Which is helpful.
Good.
You know.
Good. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Tips. I would love to know a good tip that you would love to share with. I'm thinking of the woman who is thinking about it, right? Not the one that's halfway through and 11,000 already in the hole.
Yeah.
Think of the ones that are kind of mentally preparing.
Yeah.
What's a good tip or two that you would love to share for that person?
Absolutely. Well, actually I have a couple, but they're really quick and simple. The first one is get a separate email address.
Okay.
Because a lot of times the spouse may have access to the email, and this will just give you some peace of mind to start gathering information. You'll be able to give out that email address to people that may be sending you stuff, or maybe you're signing up for my newsletter or some, things like that, where you want that to go to somewhere that doesn't set off any red flags. So setting up an email address. Along that same line, opening a P.O. box, so if anybody's going to be sending you something, it's not going to the house, so you can really kind of keep that under the radar as you're gathering information. I think the other thing is, certainly they can listen to the podcast, Divorce Conversations for Women, because we interview people. And so, you were a guest on my podcast, and we talked about, things to be thinking about if they're going to be going down the mortgage route. But we have over probably 70 different episodes. They can search for a specific topic that might be of interest to them. And if all of them are under 20 minutes or so they're short, easy snippets. Yes,
I like that. Because I love the podcast world, but sometimes when they're 2-3 hours, it takes me 3 days to listen to it.
And usually it's like, hey, I'm driving to drop my kids off, and I've got a short amount of time, or I'm, cleaning quick, or I'm going to be on a break, or whatever.
And you forget about what you listened to yesterday, right? So yeah, I love that snippet thing, especially in a world where there's just so much content. I love that piece of just keeping it short, at least relatively short. And then the next step is meet with you, to do more stuff. So. Yeah.
Well, and I think the only other thing that I would say as they're in that spot is just start being aware and gathering information. As the mail's coming in, start gathering, watching for things, whether it's statements or bank accounts or things like that. And we have checklists of what all those things are. But especially now, depending on when they watch this, video. But around tax time is always a great way. I have a client right now, she says, hey, I'm going to be gathering the stuff for taxes anyways, so this is great timing. Not setting off any red flags, because I got to gather this stuff anyways.
Right.
So while she's doing that, she's also taking, copies of the things that she's gathering.
That's awesome.
To help prepare for the divorce process, too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave links and information in the details for everyone to see, so they can definitely reach out to you. I really appreciate you coming today. I love your specialty and what you do and the women that you help. But that's really it. So I appreciate you coming, Rhonda.
Thank you so much, Josh. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. That's it.